The kipping bar muscle up. The kipping bar muscle up, the way that I like to coach it, is going to utilize more swing than strength. The idea is it is CrossFit. I want somebody to get off the equipment feeling more fresh so they can go on with the rest of their workout. And when you utilize technique and momentum more than strength, then you have accomplished that goal. I have the bar muscle up broken down into 6 different steps. For the sake of the conversation, I broke it down into 8 because we are starting from the floor and I like to point a second thing out a little bit later. So, starting from the floor with the bar muscle up, make sure that if you have the opportunity to get to a bar where you can stand beneath the bar, touch the bar on your tiptoes, or the athlete can touch the bar on their tiptoes, that is the bar height that I would like them to use. We don't want to start with a bar that's extra high for a couple reasons, but most importantly, it's that they're going to jump from the floor, and if the bar is too high, then their jump may not be sufficient enough to give them the best opportunity to learn their first bar muscle up. This will be the right height. If necessary, you can stack plates to find that right height if you don't have a bar that's low enough. And once they are standing on a platform that's low enough that they can reach the bar from those plates, move the plates back 1 arm's length behind the bar. That's where we're gonna start. When you approach the bar, I often see people walk really close to the vertical plane of the bar and try jumping, but as we may know, the hips dictate the amount of swing because they act like the weight of a pendulum. So we wanna start with our hips and our body, but our hips back behind the bar 1 full arm's length. That's where you're gonna start. I drew this green line to show that I do want arms to swing. I have seen a lot of people walk up to a bar and jump this way, but an arm swing will allow for a bigger jump. So that's how you're going to do it. You're gonna walk up, check the distance. This should be the vertical plane of the bar. Swing your arms and jump. Position number 1. The BC jump. I call it the BC jump. That stands for bad cheerleader. Good cheerleaders can fold in half and touch their toes. This one can't. It's just a hip hinge. And what we're trying to do is keep the hips back, as I wrote here, 1 arm's length. That's where the hips should reside, in the air. So your body jumps up, but you hinge forward in order to reach the bar. The upper body will be tilted forward at that position. You can still look up at the bar. You do need to look at the bar to grab it, so don't guess where the bar is. Jump up, see the bar, grab it, try to create a straight line from the hands to the hips, and from the hips to the feet, it should also be straight. If that line were to continue down to the floor, the line from your hips to your feet and further, that should point directly at the floor beneath the bar. I call that the target, where that X is. So once you jump up, you've got your hips back, you've got a straight line from your hands to your hips, which eliminates any slack in your upper body so you can continue with more swing. You're going to point your feet forward at the floor beneath the bar. And then as you swing forward, you're gonna go into the TR position, which is the target reach position. That is our target. We're gonna reach toward it. For the sake of the bar muscle up and the way that I like to coach it, the target reach will be in a vertical position. It is not the only way to do this position. This is the first straight body position, and I personally like my body to be further out in front of the bar, but for most people, for the masses, this is what works. Pretty much everybody I've ever worked with can do this type of muscle up, which is a medium kipping swing. And if you point your feet too far forward, then it makes the kipping swing really fast, really difficult, creates the necessity for more speed when it comes to the other parts of the muscle up. So trying to go from the bad cheerleader jump, the BC jump, into the target reach. This should be a controlled extension of the hips so the feet don't just start high and in the correct position here and then drop. They shouldn't free fall. The hip flexors should be on. Your body does not need to be hollow. We're trying to keep a straight line from hands to hips. And we are going to slowly lower our feet toward that X. What we're doing is we're using the weight of our legs to help create actually more swing going forward. If you allow your feet to free fall, then number one, this position will be too far back behind the bar, and number two, you will end up with less swing, thus your hips won't swing as far forward. That is the TR position. Position number three is the loading position. This is the position that gets you ready for the big move. You should feel completely extended. This does not mean that you have to swing your arms completely back behind your head. I know CrossFitters, I know their mobility, and I know that it is not likely that they're going to get a huge extension here. This shouldn't feel like a snapping end position like it does with toes to bar or kipping pull-ups, because your head should be looking upward, at least 45 degrees. So you should be looking up at 45 degrees or greater in this position. That means that the shoulder will be extended, or flexed rather, but it does not mean that you're pushing your head forward, which would cause your shoulders to be open even further, okay? Knees will bend slightly. If you notice, the feet are behind the vertical plane of the bar here, then they're even with the vertical plane of the bar here. It's likely, if you do this correctly, that the feet will be on the front side of the vertical plane of the bar. So from here to here and a little bit so on, your feet should always be on the same side of the bar as your body. It's a good thing to look at from a coach's perspective, because I will see a lot of people that lift their feet too high here, so their feet cross the vertical plane of the bar, and then their feet will be behind the vertical plane of the bar. And really what that tells me is that the hips just aren't swinging as far, and they're getting more whip than momentum. Those are different. So we want momentum. That means that we want all this potential momentum going forward. The hips were back, hips are even, now the hips are forward. The hips are going to dictate, again, how much swing we actually get out of this thing. From this position, looking up will also allow your shoulders to start drifting back a little bit further. I didn't draw that in the picture, but then your feet are going to come around and catch up with your body. This is the second straight body position. I call this position 3.5 because it's not something that you actually need to focus on, but as a coach, this is something that you can look for. So the first straight body position is here, second one is here, and if you look at that like a slice of pizza, it is a relatively decent slice. It's not too big, it's not too small, which means that the movement, the kipping swing, is more of a medium size, and that is manageable for most athletes. From this position, the feet are obviously swinging forward, so they're going to want to come up. Now, up until this point, our body, even though it's moving, has kind of been swinging as a whole unit. All the body weight is moving forward. Now all the body weight will start moving back, but because we're about to hinge in the hips, now our body's going to move in two different parts. That brings us to the air chair position. So as the feet come through, they swing up, you start bending your knees so they come toward the bar. The hip hinge is not going to change the speed in which your hips are moving. So your hips are here, and they're here. Now they're going to start drifting backward. They're, in this picture, they are even with the vertical plane of the bar. That doesn't need to be a given for sure. But your upper body should be leaning back. I didn't draw it. Your upper body should be leaning back at 45 degrees right here. Okay? So 45 degrees. And then with that hip hinge, we want it to break 90 degrees. So if your hips are here, you're not going to get as big of a kick in the Z-kick part. We want to bring the knees closer to us, and we want our shins to be relatively parallel. You don't want your feet too high. We don't want the feet to go higher than the horizontal plane of the bar, because that would be a no rep. And we don't want them too low because of the function here, which I'll explain in a moment. Now our shoulders are going back, our hips are going back, our feet are coming up, and our legs went from out here. Now they are also coming backward. So this is the air chair position. Arms are straight, back is straight. There's a lot of straight lines here, so no rounding in the back. Your shoulders may be extended forward, or the athlete's shoulders may be forward, but as long as their back is actually staying flat, that is just the reaction of the scaps moving, that's fine. So once they come in here and the shoulders are still traveling backward, as soon as they hit this position, as soon as you or your athlete hits this position, they need to pop out of that air chair position with a swift but forceful shove the feet as if they're trying to use 2 feet to kick a door open. Say the door is locked, you want to kick it open so you can get in, save a dog in a burning house fire. Either way, when you go into that air chair, you want to drive both feet out super, super quick. If there is any hesitation between here and here, then you will not get the reaction that you want. Now, I have to say that because what happens is the shoulders, as they pass the vertical plane of the bar, they start going upward. You're attached to the bar, so as your shoulders start going upward, they are going to start losing momentum, okay? If you hesitate in this position, the shoulders are quickly losing momentum, going up against gravity, and then the kick, even if it is forceful, will not be adding enough power into the shoulders to finish the transition. So what we look for here is the legs come up and immediately kick the opposite direction. So the shoulders speed, say this is the bar and these are your shoulders, okay? So as your shoulders come back, they'll start slowing down, but then you kick and then they can continue. So it's an extra boost while they are still moving. If they stop moving or they slow down, then even with a big boost, it's going to be harder to have like the combination of the speed of your shoulders swinging back with the extra speed granted by your kick to get your shoulders up and over the bar. So in here and out here needs to be this quick pop, explosion, bam, kick the other way. This means that your hips should open to a greater than 90-degree angle. And I just want to be really specific about this. You do not want to completely extend the hips. You do not want to completely extend the legs in the knee, because as soon as you do that, then they are going to start drifting downward. If you change direction quickly and then straighten them slowly as you go through the transition, what's going to happen is all this leg weight that you change direction with, it pushes you up and over, and the leg should hover here. So I tried to draw this as accurately as possible. Knees are here. Knees should be pretty much in the same spot here, and hopefully they'll be pretty much in the same spot there. As you transition over the top, clearly we're not gonna leave our feet up here. The feet will drop naturally. That's not something that should be focused on. The idea is actually to keep the feet hovering in that space. But as you transition over the top, or as your athlete transitions over the top, mind you, this athlete has a ponytail, and that ponytail is flying over the top because from here it is a pull and a swing, as if you had one of those toys that you take to the dog park that picks up the tennis ball and it flings it. Imagine you've got one of those with a little cup on your head and you're trying to fling that ball wide across the room. That is kind of what the hair flopping over the top should be like. And there we go. So that's the transition right there. Even though it's common to see CrossFitters finish a transition looking forward and up, if your athlete or you are working on your first bar muscle up, I highly recommend that the head goes up, over, and then looks downward toward the floor. Okay, I call this the wishing well position because when you're a child and you throw a coin into a wishing well, you jump up, you want to look down into the well to watch it as it falls and flickers in the light. That is kind of the same concept here. Kick, make a wish, and get your ass over the top, okay? So those are the 6 steps plus the starting position, and I just wanted to point out step 3.5, the second straight body position, but those are the 6 steps to the bar muscle up.